A person is made up of about 50,000 trillion cells. A cell nucleus contains 23,000 of our genes, which code for the building blocks of life. Genes are parts of DNA unique from all other people that have ever lived. Only a small part of our gene is transcribed in every cell. That is how all the cells in our body can have the same DNA, yet be different in blood and muscle. This idea of genes is something that has puzzled the mind of humankind for many years. There once lived a man named Charles Darwin. Darwin sought to answer these questions and proposed an explanation for evolution, moreover, the idea of natural selection. Variation in traits among species. Traits are inherited from parents to offspring. Species are capable of producing more offspring than their environment can support, and over time, traits favorable for their environment will be passed on. This idea of natural selection was taken further when scientists began looking at the behavior of individual genes in populations. Evolution occurs via the survival of competing genes, and there is an increased allele frequency for those whose phenotypic effects promote their own proliferation. This is the selfish gene theory. Altruism is when an organism behaves to increase the chance of survival of another organism at the expense of its own. The selfish gene theory argues that an act of altruism in nature is actually selfish. The bird call is an example of this. The caller is more likely to catch the attention of the predator, increasing its chances of being attacked. But what if the bird would endanger himself more by not calling? For example, what if an individual bird in a flock whose mechanism is to fly up into the tree when danger approaches spots a hawk? It has two options. It could fly up in the tree by itself, but this would remove its anonymity within the flock and so increase the bird's chances of being attacked by the hawk. Alternatively, the bird could encourage the entire flock up into the tree by making a warning call. The bird is now less vulnerable to attack because it is no longer out in the open, but part of a crowd. From the perspective of the individual bird, the warning call is the best option. The fact that the warning call also increases the safety of the flock is just a byproduct of the individual bird's selfish need to increase its own survival. The bird call is superficially altruistic. A behavioral characteristic that demonstrates selfish genes is when birds lay a series of eggs with a certain delay between each clutch. This results in nestlings belonging to the same parents having a variety of different sizes and weights. An evolutionary biologist called David Lack came up with a theory to explain this behavior, calling it the Lack's brood reduction hypothesis. He suggests that this behavior allows the larger, stronger nestlings to survive when conditions are harsh and allows all of the nestlings to survive when conditions are favorable. This means that, for example, when food supply is low, there will be large, strong birds present in the population that will be able to tolerate these conditions and allows that family of birds to survive and live on. This theory suggests the selfish nature of genes, as young, weak nestlings do not survive, but this does not matter as the genes are able to live on in the larger, stronger nestlings from another clutch of the same family. An important concept to help understand selfish genes is the evolutionary stable strategy. It was first proposed by John Maynard Smith in 1973 and helps describe how populations can be stable even when they have multiple phenotypes. For example, let's say we have two phenotypes for behavior, aggressive and peaceful. Aggressive will always fight until one of the pair is badly wounded. Peaceful will stand its ground and run away only if attacked. We can work out the strategy if we assign points for outcomes, plus 50 for winning, minus 100 for getting wounded, and minus 10 for wasting time in a long fight. If we start with a population of only peaceful people, every encounter leaves one with plus 50 for winning the long, non-physical encounter, but they both lose 10 for wasting time. The average payoff of the population is plus 15. But what if a mutant aggressive appeared in the population? He would win the fight every time, thus gaining plus 50 every time. As this is much greater than plus 15, he would be successful and pass down his genes. If the gene was passed on until all the people were aggressive, they would be winning half their fights, gaining plus 50, and losing half, losing 100. This population would average minus 25. If a mutant peaceful appeared, it would run away from the encounters and average 0, thus spreading its genes. In reality, a population would reach a balance where the average payoff is equal for both strategies. This is called polymorphism. This group would average 6.25. This is less than all the peaceful population, but genes are selfish and a mutant aggressive would always be able to take advantage of the group until the ratios are restored. So that's selfish gene theory in 5 minutes. It is important to note that it's just a theory, and just as you cannot evidently see a species evolve into another, you cannot see a selfish gene in action. Questions can still be asked and answers still be sought. A person is made up of about 50,000 trillion cells, and in those cells 23,000 genes. How many are selfish genes?